I'm your platform partner, your hustling homie Jackson, all about helping you take the action so that you can grow your life, being the boss of your life. And in this video, I want to talk with you about burning bridges and how most people are burning bridges and don't even know. And I want to tell you at least 5 ways people are burning bridges. And if you're doing this, I'm going to hopefully help you with stop burning bridges, because relationships are the thing in life that really make life worthwhile. But more importantly, the relationships are a reflection of ourselves. So if we want to grow as individuals, we have to balance ourselves within an environment and understand that people are a resource. Number one resources that we have. And many times through immaturity, through lack of skills, a lack of people skills, we are burning relationships with people more than ever. And you do not want to do that in the era that we live in, meaning the era where we are dependent on communities and groups. Because this is an era where, hell, let's face it, we're in a fragile society. So that means literally you are only hours, if not minutes away from your whole life being turned upside down. I mean, just think about if your power was to go out and now you don't have access to your phone. How would your life change? Right now, you need someone else with the phone. Imagine if you're driving on the road and your car battery goes out. This happened the other day. A brother walked up to me and he says, "Man, my battery's dead on my phone and my car. Can you please give me a jump?" And so he had to have enough people skills to at least know how to communicate to me to help him actually in that situation. But in some cases, it's all about the people that we know, not just building new friends, but also knowing how to build relationships that are valuable. So we must do that. That's extremely important. And that's what I want to talk about is what are 5 ways people are burning bridges and wrecking their relationships and they don't even know. This is the part 1 in this series. If you want me to go deeper, and I have other videos where I talk about 5 ways to build long-lasting relationships, we'll talk about that. But one of the first ways I want to directly get into, and to be very, very specific, and I'll give you guys an overview before I go in detail of what are some of the things I'm going to cover in this video. So we will talk about people not being loyal. What does it mean to be loyal? What does loyalty look like? We'll also talk about people who complain and always filing complaints because they make you look bad on social media. We'll talk about that. We also talk about, time, how people burn bridges based on the time, taking up people's time, taking away time from people. Also cutting out the plug, overstepping your boundaries with people. We'll talk about all those things and more. Okay. And this will work for if you're in business or in life. If you know about Hustle Headquarters, even though we talk about business principles and practices, but many of this stuff carries on in life as well, because business and life both require people and people skills. So with that being said, let's lock in. Let's get focused. So one of the first things I want to talk about that you have to pay attention to when it comes to burning bridges with people is first we have to have a level of being grateful for people that we meet. We have to go into relationships with the right intention in the first place. Meaning when you go into relationships, you want to go in, if you want to build relationships, you go in with that mindset of I'm not necessarily trying to take. When you go into a relationship saying I'm grateful to be building with someone, because this person that you're building with, guess what? This could be a person that changed your life. This could be a person that, let's say, just might be there for you when you least need it. Let's say you walking up the street and you pass out, and now that person, just some random person that you just met or walking up the street, is the person that calls the ambulance to help you. We never know how we need each other until we're in a position where we need each other. So you want to be preventive and start building relationships at the beginning. Okay. Hold on, let me put you on pause. Relationship building requires an intention. You go into the relationship, you go into meeting people with a goal of being able to help people. That's what you go in with. That's what networking is all about. I got another video I'll do about the 10 commandments of networking and to create deep, substantial, long-term relationships. And by the way, before I keep going with the list, I got to tell you this. I believe my number one skills that have gotten me everything I've ever gotten in life, whether it be out of a bad situation or just great when it comes to money and anything, it's all been based on people that I know. It's somebody that I knew that said, man, try out that restaurant. Someone that was an amazing spot. Someone that I knew that said, hey, I'm going to take you to this. Let's go outside the country, right? It's typically other people that we meet that's going to help elevate our lives to the next level. So having that in mind, when you're meeting people, you never know who you're talking to. So when we go into relationships with the intention of, I want to provide some type of value, meaning sometimes just listen to people. But that's another video. Let's talk about how people are burning relationships. People are going into these relationships taken. They're going into the relationships being ungrateful. So if you go into a relationship with the mindset where you're already judging the person before you know them and you're sizing them up and you're already starting out on a bad foot. You go into a business and you think you see somebody with a broom and they probably taking coats. You think, oh, that's the janitor, so I'm going to talk to this person like whatever. And then you find out that's the actual owner of the business or a relative to the owner or whoever. So you need to understand, you got to always treat people fair. And if you're making the mistake of going into any new relationship, judging, or trying to take and being ungrateful, you've already started the process off bad. Because remember that first impression can never be repeated. You can never make the first impression twice. You can't do it. So coming in with the good intention of, hey, how can I listen, provide value, and help, and not be a judgmental person? So that's a big way that people are losing and burning relationships, because they're not doing that. But also, number two, here's another thing that's huge. It's time, and taking time away from people, disrespecting people's time. Meaning if someone has an appointment to meet with you and you are late, or you're just or you don't make the appointment, you're burning that relationship. Especially if it's somebody that is a valuable person. People that are valuable, they respect their time. So let's say, for instance, you need somebody to come pick you up because you're going somewhere. They say, I'm gonna come pick you up in the car. And then they pull up to your house and you're not ready. And they gotta call you and say, hey man, I'm here. And then you take 20 minutes to come downstairs. You're already wasting their time, and that person is not going to likely want to continue to build a relationship with you, especially if this is a person of value. So don't waste people's time. If you're having meetings with folks, and even if it's at lunch or on a Zoom, and you're making your meetings go long, people are going to associate you with the painful experience of their time being wasted. If it's boring, people are going to associate you with being boring. People are going to associate you with wasting time. So don't waste people's time, okay? That's a big way people are ruining relationships. Now, I'm going to give you a 3. This is a big one. Everyone can relate to this. Here's the third way people burn relationships. You can burn relationships by crossing, aka not being loyal to your plug, to your connect, right? We've all been in situations where we meet someone that we know is introducing us to new people. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is that new person that we just met. Sometimes people will go to the new person and start talking negative and saying negative things about the person that introduced them, which doesn't make sense. If someone is connecting you to a network of people saying, hey, I want to introduce you to, here's an attorney I work with, here's an accountant I work with, or here's just another person that, is another client that we have. If you are then talking to that new person and saying, yeah, you do know this person that introduced us, oh man, they shit is not together. This person is the worst. I don't like this person. Eventually, that shit you talking is going to get back to that original person. So if you don't want for that to happen, if you don't want to burn relationships, that you don't do that. Do not talk about people behind their backs. You're talking about people behind their back. That's the quickest way to ruin a relationship. Plus, the new person you just met is going to be looking at you thinking you would do the same things to them. So that is a horrible habit that too many of us have over and over again. If you want it to burn, you want to burn your relationships up, then you keep doing that. But if you want to salvage your relationships, keep your opinions to yourself. Be loyal, okay? That's another thing. Speaking of that whole loyalty thing. When you get introduced to a plug, meaning a new person, don't try to cut out the original person that introduced you. That's a quick way of burning relationships, burning bridges. Let's say, for example, if I am a real estate investor, I'm buying homes. You are a person that somebody that's looking to sell a house. I'm looking to buy a house. You say, hey, you know what? My neighbor is trying to sell their house. Maybe let me put you in contact with my neighbor. So they get me on the phone and I talk with the neighbor. I do a deal and I completely cut out the person that introduced us. That is bad business. Because what happens is we would have never had the opportunity to do it if it wasn't for this middle person. So what you want to do, good faith is you give that person that introduced you, give them something, not just a thank you. Give them some money. If you made money, if you made $10,000 off of the deal, you need to be giving them at least something. Give them $500, give them $100, something just to say thank you. But this also applies in big business. I mean, how many times have you had a business where a customer comes to you and they say, hey, who's your vendor? What vendor are you working with? Where are you getting your merchandise from? And they'll then try to cut you out and go straight to the plug. Now, that's horrible business. That's the last thing you want to do. In many cases, you can actually get hurt for that. You can get, depending on what you're doing, because you can be really messing with people's money and messing with people's livelihood. So you do not want to get into the practice of cutting out your plug. Do not cut out the plug. You got to think, this is where you got to think long term. See, all of this is long term thinking. And when it comes to setting up a business in general, or building relationships don't happen overnight. These are things that take years to develop. And the same way you develop a reputation over years, it can be destroyed in a moment. Just with one bad decision, just because you was talking bad about one person, just because you was complaining about something to the wrong people, and now the new people are looking at you like, that person is a complainer, because you are a representative of your friends, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. You are a mirror and a reflection of the 5 closest people you're around. So when you go places and if you're complaining and you're being a victim, you're always got your hand out, any of those things, automatically people will begin to burn you. You'll be burning bridges with the new people that you meet, because any person that's trying to be progressive, they don't want to be associated with toxic energy and somebody that's negative or someone that's complaining, always a victim, someone who's not taking accountability, not taking ownership. So it's best to build a relationship than to be right. If you're ever in situations where someone is saying that they felt like you made mistakes, the worst thing you can do is immediately try to defend yourself. Don't say, oh, no, you see, what really happened was this. Oh, no, you see, you don't understand what happened was this. Oh, see, that day I was feeling bad because my stomach was hurting and I bumped my toe when I got out the bed. No, that's for children to do. Children complain like that, okay? Followers complain. Victims are doing that. If you want to be a leader, you want to be a high achiever, and that's what this channel is about. This channel is for those that want to be extraordinary, right? Leave a legacy. So if you want to really build a legacy and leave one, you got to understand that you cannot be complaining, and you have to take accountability. Even if it wasn't your fault, you still take ownership and you say, you know what? this is what I could have done differently. I can see where I probably was wrong. I can see where I was wrong. Even if you weren't wrong, people will respect you because as a leader, you're taking accountability. This is how you maintain those relationships. So that's very, 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 very critical if you want to avoid burning relationships, burning bridges with people. Now, also, it's just very important in general that you are not taking this energy and applying it online. See, some of this stuff, we can visualize it in person, but what we do is we don't understand it when we see it online. See, the same thing, all these principles also apply when you're online. And people make these mistakes and burn bridges on the internet all the time. If you're a type of person that, let's say you had a bad experience with a business, a bad transaction, and the first thing you do is you go on the internet and you immediately post and say, oh, these people have bad service. These people have horrible products. What can happen is people can start looking at you like you're the problem, especially if this is a pattern. If you have a pattern of constantly bashing people and saying negative things online and leaving negative reviews, one, people that's following you may look at you and say you're a problem and look at you crazy. But two, the person that you're talking negative about, that person may be somebody you need again in the future. You never know. They say when you moving up the ladder of success, on your way down, you see the same people that you saw on your way up. So don't be so quick to spread negativity online and complaints about people, saying other people are negative or toxic and they had a bad business practice. Because the quicker you do that, you start isolating yourself. You don't want to be isolated, okay? Not if you're going to be successful. You always want to have the option to be able to lean on your network. This doesn't mean that you have to be friends and buddy with everyone, but it does mean that you got some plugs. People need, when they think of you, they should think positive things. I don't care if you rarely talk to people, okay? You can have somebody you haven't talked to in 10 years, but guess what? If they remember you from always being positive, you never complained, even if you were going through negative situations, you didn't even talk about it a lot, people will say this is a very strong person. They'll say, I got nothing but good things to say about this person. And you never know when that could pay off for you in the long run, whether it be getting customers, getting a client, getting a deal. Literally, sometimes you're only one person away from changing your whole life. It could be one person introduce you to one person that can literally make you multi-millionaire once you're in a position. Okay. And it could be at the time when you least expect it. So planting seeds to build relationships is very important, but you don't want to be that person that's burning these relationships, man. Not being loyal, okay, to yourself, not being loyal to the team by talking, complaining. Stealing is another one. That's a big one. Stealing could be not just stealing time, but actually stealing things. Imagine someone comes to your house and they use all the toilet paper tissue, or they use all of the they just constantly just taking from the house. They're using the internet. They constantly just taking something. They running up your water bill, your electricity bill, and they never offer to pay anything. You'll start burning relationships that way. Start burning bridges. Of course, if you actually steal from somebody, that's even worse. If you actually literally take someone, and you might be innocent, you might be thinking, oh well, I'm not, I just went in a refrigerator and took, a few items. I just took a sandwich. Now, some people, it's not a big deal, but people will take note if you do that consistently. If you're constantly, I just take a little something here, a little something there. It's best when building relationships to ask for permission when you're building a relationship, and to be humble. Okay. Now, if you don't even like a person, still be cool with them and be cordial. because we're living in a world where you're only really as strong as those relationships when you need them most. And always remember, one day, even though you may think you don't need those relationships now, that doesn't mean you won't need them someday in the future. So let your relationships be one of your greatest investments, period, by planting positive seeds and not making these mistakes. We talked about those again. The people burn bridges by stealing, complaining, not being loyal, trying to cut out their plugs, constantly being a person who is taking away people's time, not respecting their time, and many more things is what we covered so far in this video. I can keep going, but I've gone long enough. If you're still watching this video, I want to remind you to get the book series Shut Up and Hustle. Link in the description. You go to HustleHeadquarters360.com. Make sure you get that book. You got to have that manual. In fact, I'm suggesting to people to buy 3 of them. Get 3 of them. That way you can share them with some friends. And then you guys can have a study group, because that book is a very powerful group. The book is really designed for groups. If you're trying to rebuild an organization, you're trying to create a culture of success. It's helping people create a code of conduct. So I would say buy that book by the 3s, okay? And share it with your team. With that being said, I'm your platform partner, Jackson, all about helping you take action. Subscribe to the page. Let me know which of these mistakes that you've made and what you've done to try to rebuild relationships. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.